Hey folks, for this video here, it's going to be about installing a garage door, but it's not just a simple garage door. This project here was a barn, and originally he was going to put sliding barn doors on it, but ended up picking up 2 garage doors for free. So what we're going to do, the doors were 9x7s, which only takes you up to this panel here, and he wanted a taller door because he's planning on having a small tractor in here. So we added 1 extra panel, but in order to add the extra panel, we had to add pieces to the side of the track, lengthen the cable, put another cable on it, and we also had to frame out the door and try to make it look good from the way it was framed out before. So in this video, we're going to show you how to do all that. It's going to be a 2-part video, and we'll get started. So this is what we got. We basically got an opening, but when the garage door was framed, the top up here, this part up here, is too tall. So we got to build that down, and we still got to make it look pretty decent. And then we got to trim in the sides, and then actually put the trim all along. Get ready to install the garage door, and I'll take you through the steps as I do it. Okay, this is the door that this is the one that I already had installed. It's supposed to be a 9x7, but what we did is we added an extra panel at the top, and then we had to cut some tracks. I'll show you up closer. I had to cut right here, cut and install an extra piece of track that goes from there right up, that piece right there. And then we had to add extra rollers in the door here. And the other thing we had to do is get a longer cable, which we did, but it didn't have a clip at the end, so we had to make something work. So what we did is drilled a couple holes, wrapped it through the drum, and put 2 self-tappers to hold the cable from sliding out. And then we bolted the spring on, and then tightened it up. And it is working. It does work well. We thought we were going to have to add extra onto the track this way, but it seems to work fine. The panel goes right to the end. We got to put some stoppers there to make sure it doesn't fall off the end, but other than that, it works fine. So the first step we're going to do is we're going to get a rough stud opening of the door, what we need. We can just take the measurements from the front door because that's completed. And we're going to build the top down. We'll build that down, frame it up, and put the paper over it, clean it up. And I'll show you that once I finish it. This is what we got going now. I determined that the top, up at the top there, it needs to come down 7.5 inches. The rough stud opening is going to be 105, and right now it's 107.5. So we got to bring it down 7.5 inches. So what I'm doing, because the header is there, it's already taken the weight, and the jack posts and everything are in. All I'm doing now is just framing a little stud wall, 16 inches on center. I'm going to build it here on the floor, and then what I'm going to do is just nail it up to the bottom of the header, just to build it down. These here studs, they're only 4.5 inches. You got to allow your 3 inches, your 1.5 inches for each plate, so that'll give us 7.5 inches, and that'll build it down to exactly what we want. So once that's together, I'll show you when I get it installed. Okay, we got that little wall, the build down, framed up and installed. I put some boards on the other side to sheathe it, build it out to where it's supposed to be. So the next step is we're just going to take all this paper and we're going to wrap it around staple it in and cut it off. Now this is just a horse barn, so you don't even technically need the paper, but it's for a little bit of money, it's well worth the investment. The only thing is, whoever installed it, the paper's too short. So I have some leftover stuff in there that I'm going to staple up, and what you want to do is make sure you lap it properly so that if any water gets behind the boards, that it runs out off of the paper. And you are supposed to tape the paper with right construction tape. I'm not sure if we have it. If we have it, we'll use it. If we don't, we won't bother, just as long as it's lapped properly and the water can run off. Okay, we got the paper installed. You can see where it ran short, so I lapped it properly. Unfortunately, we have no tape, but with the paper wrapped the way it is, there's no problem with water, so that's good. Now the next step is we're going to do the inner boards in along the frame work. That'll cover the paper, give it a finished look, and I'll show you that once that process is finished. Okay, I got the inner framework done here. Basically, this is just to cover up the paper, just a finished edge. And then he's going to stain it or do whatever he wants to do with it. Right there. Now the next step after that, I got to fill this out, because this was the wall that we built. So I got to fill that out flush with the board that comes down. And then I'll put the trim work over that, and that'll clean it up and make it look just like the front. Okay, we got that filled in. I just used 2 1x4s just to build in the spot. And then that gap there will be a 1x6, will go over that. And then the trim boards would go down the sides. Okay guys, this is what's happening now. I realized when they put the battens on, the boards going straight up and down, they're all over the place. There's nothing straight there. So what I had to do is I measured up on each side the same distance. Then I snapped a chalk line across. I don't know if the camera's picking that up. I snapped a straight line across. And now I'm going to set the depth of my skill saw and trim the edges of them boards so that it's straight. Okay, I just trimmed off all the ends there. Put a nice straight line on it. Clean them all up. Now it's time to install the trim boards. Trim boards are all installed. It's all looking good. I pretty much finished it for the outside of the door. Cleaned it up. That nice little trim on the top. Cleaned up the top there. Covered up that little spot that we had to fill down. And there will be a weather strip that has to go on after the door is installed. But as of now, that's pretty much it for outside. Next step, we're going to install the boards that go on the side of the doors and across the top, so that when we put our tracks on, we have something to bolt it to. And I'll show you just what I mean over here on this door. On this door, you'll see the 2 boards that go across the top where the top rail bolts to, the spring. And then down each side, we run a board. That way we can bolt our brackets for the door. And that's going to be the next step. That's what we're going to do right now. This here, guys, I seen some scrap insulation kicking around, so I insulated the cavity above the door. Because once the spring and everything goes on, you don't want to be pulling all that apart if you're going to insulate it. He's never planned on insulating this barn because it's going to be for horses and stuff, but maybe down the future, down the road, he may turn it into some shop or something. So might as well just insulate it. It was kicking around. Okay folks, this is the final inside framework that I had to put up. This framework here, it's not necessary all the time, but one thing it does do is it makes it clean looking, nice and flush. And then this here spot right here, like these boards, gives it a nice flat surface to put your brackets on. I'll go over here. So it gives it a nice flat surface to put your brackets on, and it cleans the inner edge. That way, if they ever do decide to finish in here, it'll give it a nice look with the barn.